There are Porsches sitting on used car lots and private driveways right now that buyers walk straight past, and not because they are bad cars or because they are unreliable. They get ignored because people see the wrong badge, the wrong year, or hear the wrong forum rumor before they ever look at the price. Each one is a real Porsche, hiding in plain sight at a fraction of what it should cost. Some are forgotten classics quietly appreciating, some are modern bargains the snobs refuse to take seriously, and one or two are about to stop being cheap altogether. Today you discover 10 specific Porsches the market has overlooked, why the rest of the world keeps walking past them, and exactly what makes each one an absolute goldmine for the buyer who knows better. Stay to the end because the very best of them is also the smartest single Porsche you can buy right now. Let us count them down. Number 10. The 1969 to 1976 Porsche 914. This is the original mid-engine Porsche sports car that almost the entire enthusiast world managed to forget for the better part of 40 years. Built as a joint project between Porsche and Volkswagen and sold as the affordable way into the brand, it hit a flat 4, making somewhere between 80 and 100 horsepower in a body weighing barely more than 2,000 pounds, with the engine sitting amidships behind the driver. The result handles less like a vintage car and more like a go-kart, with a balance the 911 of the day could only dream of. It actually outsold the 911 when it was new, yet the market dismissed it for decades, partly for the Volkswagen connection and partly for those slab-sided looks and the removable Targa roof that stows neatly in the rear deck. For most of its life it was the cheap Porsche nobody wanted, which is the surest sign a car is about to be rediscovered. That snobbery is exactly the opportunity, because clean four-cylinder cars can still be found in the rough region of $12,000 to $22,000, and younger collectors chasing mid-engine purity are waking up to it fast. As a bonus, it is the darling of the Restomod world, a favorite base for flat six and other engine swaps. Running costs are modest, the mechanicals are simple air-cooled engineering, and a sorted example asks only a few $100s a year to keep right. For decades it was filed under entry-level curiosity, and that lazy label is exactly what kept prices down while the driving stayed brilliant. The window on the forgotten 914 is closing, and the reasons it was ignored are the very reasons to buy one. Number 9. The 914 Buyer's Reality Check, and the variant that is the real grail. Before you rush out, understand the one thing that decides whether a 914 is a gold mine or a money pit, and that one thing is rust. The chassis was never fully galvanized, so corrosion is an existential threat to almost every survivor, and the car's own design traps water in places that are genuinely hard to see, including the well beneath the Targa panel and the inner structure. Repairing a rotten 914 routinely costs several times what the car is worth, so the golden rule is simple and absolute. Buy the cleanest, most rust-free example you can find regardless of the premium, and never buy one without a specialist inspection of the sills, floor pan, inner fenders, and suspension mounts. A car that looks tidy in photographs can be rotten where it matters, and only hands and a trained eye will tell you which. Get that right and the upside is real, because rust-free cars are consistently undervalued by buyers who cannot judge the structure on a test drive. And if you want the true grail, it is the 914 fitted with the 2-liter flat 6 from the 911, of which fewer than 10,000 were ever built, now trading anywhere from the mid-30s into the 90,000 range. One more practical point, the specialist community for these cars is genuinely small, so being within reach of someone who actually knows the 914 matters more than it does for a mainstream classic. Sellers routinely underprice the solid cars simply because most buyers cannot tell a rust-free shell from a cleverly hidden one, and that is your edge. The patient, informed buyer holds all the power here. Number 8. The 1986 to 1988 Porsche 924S. This may be the single most misunderstood car in the whole Porsche back catalog, and the misunderstanding is exactly why it stays cheap. Buyers see the 924 shape and assume it is the original, underwhelming 924, the one saddled with a Volkswagen and Audi-sourced engine. The 924S is a completely different animal. When the old engine went out of production, Porsche dropped the proper 2.5-liter Porsche-designed 4 from the 944 straight into the lighter, narrower 924 body, giving roughly 150 to 160 horsepower in a sweeter-handling shell. It is the same rear transaxle layout that made the 944 famous, with that near-ideal front-to-rear balance, and the 1988 cars got a freer exhaust and the full 160 horsepower. Production over the short 3-year run was modest, well below the 944s, so the 924S is rarer than most people ever realize. The Porsche Club crowd quietly call it a true sleeper, the 944's engine in a simpler, lighter body, and you can still find them in the rough region of $8,000 to $18,000. The handling is the real story. That rear transaxle giving a roughly 48 to 52 weight split and a poise that shames far more expensive machinery of the era, and because the body is lighter and narrower than the 944s, many who have driven both quietly prefer the 924S. It is the very definition of a sleeper, a proper Porsche engine sports car wearing the body shell everybody underestimates. With transaxle Porsche values climbing hard, the 944 itself is up around 75% over 5 years by Haggerty's tracking. This is a window that will not stay open. Number 7. The 924S buyer's checklist, because the sleeper has rules. The 924S shares every major mechanical strength and weakness of the 944, so you buy it the same careful way. The single most important item is the timing belt, which along with the balance shaft belt needs replacing roughly every 40,000 miles or 4 years. Because if that belt lets go, the pistons meet the valves and the engine is destroyed in an instant. This one service history line matters more than the odometer reading. Have the water pump done at the same time, budget very roughly $800 to $1,800 for the combined service at a good independent, and walk away from any car whose belt history you cannot verify. After that, it is rust again, since the body was only partly galvanized and the sills and inner arches suffer, so feel behind the sill covers and check the floors. Test every gear hot and cold for a tired clutch or worn synchros. The 1988 cars are the ones to chase for that last bit of power and the better documentation. Check the clutch hydraulics and the gearbox for tired synchros, and confirm the balance shaft belt was done alongside the timing belt, since the two share the same drive and skipping one defeats the purpose. The 1988 cars, with the extra power and the typically better-kept paperwork, are the strongest single buys in the whole 924 story. And the very thing that keeps prices low, buyers confusing it with the basic Volkswagen engine 924, is exactly what protects your bargain while you own it. Number 6. The 1987 to 1995 Porsche 928 S4 and GTS. Here's a front-engined V8 Porsche Grand Tourer that was once the most expensive car the company sold, now available for sports sedan money. The S4 brought a 5-liter V8 of around 320 horsepower wrapped in the wide, smoothed-off late bodywork, while the final GTS cars used a 5.4-liter V8, making roughly 350 horsepower with an even wider rear track. This is a genuine Autobahn weapon, a hand-built Grand Tourer that will still devour a continent in a day, and it carries real Hollywood pedigree from its 80s film appearances that is now pulling in buyers who grew up wanting one and can finally afford it. That wave of nostalgia is a powerful, predictable driver of values. The GTS is the rarest and most coveted, trading from the mid-20s into the 50s and beyond, but the smart money pick is the S4, which delivers the full 928 experience from somewhere around $18,000 to $30,000. Remember that this was once Porsche's flagship, a car meant to be faster and more civilized than the 911 it was supposed to replace, with a sophistication that still feels special today. The GTS in particular, with its wider rear track and bigger engine, is now firmly on the collector radar, which makes the more plentiful S4 the clever entry point before the whole range moves further out of reach. With values climbing across the 928 range, this is a lot of engineering and presence for the money, and the people who ignore it simply do not realize what it is. Number 5. The 928 Buyer's Guide, because complexity is the catch. The 928 is a magnificent thing, but it is also genuinely complex, and that is precisely why a specialist inspection from a 928 expert is non-negotiable before you buy. The cooling system is full of plastic parts that turn brittle and leak with age, and a full overhaul with the water pump can run toward $4,500. The timing belt is a roughly 60,000-mile or 6-year job that costs a couple of thousand to do properly, and a snapped belt on these engines is catastrophic, so its history is everything. The electronics were extraordinarily sophisticated for the era, and water getting in through blocked sunroof drains can quietly destroy expensive control modules that live low in the car, so check the carpets and floors for any sign of damp. Budget several thousand a year to run one properly, and treat a thick folder of service history as the single most important thing separating a sound car from a money pit. The rule with a 928 is brutally simple. The cheapest car in the listings is almost always the most expensive to own, because catching up decades of deferred cooling, belt, and electrical work can cost more than the car. Pay more for the sorted, documented example, and you have bought a hand-built V8 Grand Tourer for the price of a used family crossover. Buy a documented, specialist-checked 928 and it is a bargain supercar. Buy a neglected one on price alone and it will ruin you. If you enjoy this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Number 4. The 1992 to 1995 Porsche 968. This is the last and finest evolution of the entire transaxle family that began with the 924, and Porsche claimed it was over 80% new compared to the 944 it replaced, despite the family resemblance. Its all-aluminium 3-liter 4 used early variocam variable valve timing to make around 240 horsepower, which at launch made it the most powerful naturally aspirated 4-cylinder production car in the world. It carries the same beautifully balanced transaxle layout as the rest of the family, and the British Porsche Club has gone as far as calling it arguably the best-built Porsche of them all. Only about 12,500 were made worldwide, so it is genuinely rare, and you can still find them in the rough region of $18,000 to $40,000, which for the most powerful naturally aspirated 4 of its day and the best built of the family is remarkable value. It was offered as a coupe and a cabriolet, with a slick 6-speed manual or a Tiptronic, and even in standard form it steers and balances with a precision that modern cars rarely match. Because so few were made and the model has always lived in the 944's shadow, it has stayed quietly affordable while being, by many accounts, the most thoroughly developed of the whole family. Best of all, and this matters enormously, the 968 carries none of the intermediate shaft-bearing anxiety that hangs over the early water-cooled flat 6s, so it is a Porsche you can simply enjoy without the fear. Number 3. The 968 Club Sport, the stripped-out driver's grail. If the standard 968 is underrated, its hardcore sibling is the one the obsessives actually chase. The Club Sport threw out the rear seats, much of the sound insulation and the comfort items, fitted lightweight Recaro shell seats, shed around 100 pounds, and lowered and sharpened the whole car into one of the purest driver's Porsches ever built. The result is the kind of steering feel and balance people normally associate with mid-engined cars, from a front-engined coupe. It was never officially sold in the United States, so every example there arrived through gray import channels, which adds to the rarity and the mystique, and clean cars now trade roughly from the mid-30s into the 80s. For a car routinely named among the great drivers' Porsches, that is still a relative bargain. Drive 1 and the lighter weight and firmer setup transform the car, turning a fine Grand Tourer into a properly serious backroad weapon that rewards a skilled driver the way few front-engined cars can. Its rarity is not manufactured either. The production numbers were tiny, and the cars that survive in honest, unmodified condition are scarcer still. The Club Sport is the full stop at the end of a 15-year engineering sentence that ran from the 924 through the 944 to this. And that story is exactly why collectors who know are quietly hoovering them up. Number 2. The 1999 to 2004 Porsche 996 Carrera, the cheapest 911 alive. This is the single easiest way to get into genuine 911 ownership, and it is cheap for reasons that have almost nothing to do with how good the car is. The internet has spent 20 years savaging the 996 for its fried egg headlights, shared with the Boxster, for a plainer interior, for being the first water-cooled 911 to break with air-cooled tradition, and above all, for the intermediate shaft-bearing scare. Almost none of those complaints have anything to do with how the car actually drives. Strip away the noise, and what you have is the last truly analog 911 with around 300 horsepower, a 7,000-plus redline, real steering feel, and less weight than every 911 that came after it. The world is finally catching on, with the enthusiast clubs now calling it a cult classic and the press in 2026 openly naming it a superb budget buy. There is a deeper reason its moment has come, because the same enthusiasts now turning away from heavy digital modern cars are exactly the people who prize what the 996 is: a light, communicative, naturally aspirated 911 with a proper manual and nothing between you and the road. Coupes and manuals are the ones to seek, and even the cleanest cars remain a relative steal. Good driver examples still sit in the rough region of $20,000 to $35,000, even as values have climbed something like 40% over 5 years. It is quite simply the most car for the money in the entire 911 bloodline. Number 1. The 2002 to 2004 Porsche 996.2 with a documented IMS retrofit. This is the absolute peak goldmine on the list, because it takes the cheapest 911 and quietly engineers away the one thing everyone fears. The intermediate shaft-bearing failure that haunts the 996's reputation actually struck only a single-digit percentage of cars, perhaps somewhere in the 4 to 10% range by independent estimates. And the later 996.2 already received a quietly improved bearing along with 320 horsepower. More importantly, a proper IMS retrofit, fitted during a routine clutch job for roughly $2,000 to $2,500, permanently removes the failure mode altogether. That means a documented 996.2 with full history and a verified IMS solution already done, sitting somewhere around $25,000 to $32,000, is the smartest Porsche purchase on the entire used market today. Think about what that actually means. The one objection that has suppressed 996 values for 2 decades, the fear of a sudden engine failure, is taken permanently off the table by a known affordable fix, and yet the market still prices these cars as though the risk remains. That is a mispricing you can exploit today. Insist on seeing the retrofit invoice and the service history, walk past the undocumented cars, and you end up with a real analog water-cooled 911 with its single famous weakness already solved. As the 996's reappraisal accelerates, that window is closing, and the people who move now are the ones who will look like geniuses in 5 years. So there it is, the pattern that ties all 10 together. Not one of these Porsches is ignored because it is a bad car. The 914 was dismissed for a Volkswagen badge, the 924S for a shape buyers misread, the 928 for its complexity, the 968 for hiding behind the 944, and the 996 for a forum rumor and a pair of headlights. Every single one was overlooked for a reason that has nothing to do with how it drives or how it was built, and that gap between reputation and reality is precisely where the bargains live. The transaxle cars are climbing, with the 944 family up around 75% in 5 years. The 928 is appreciating fast, and the 996 has already turned the corner from punchline to cult classic. History keeps repeating with Porsches. The model everyone mocks today is the one everyone wishes they had bought a decade later. The air-cooled cars did it first. The 964 and 993 went from unloved to unobtainable. Then the transaxle cars began the same march, and the 996 is now visibly mid-climb. Right now, these 10 are sitting in that exact sweet spot between dismissed and discovered, cheap enough to buy with your head, good enough to keep with your heart, and still climbing for the people who get in before the crowd does. A few words on how to actually buy one, because a gold mine only stays a gold mine if you buy the right example. Always get a model-specific specialist to carry out the pre-purchase inspection, because the cheap car with hidden rust or a skipped timing belt is the one that bankrupts you, and the slightly dearer car with a thick folder of history is almost always the cheaper car in the end. A few $100s spent on the right inspection is the best money you will ever spend on one of these. Factor each model's known weak points into your offer rather than walking away from them, because a known fault with a known fix is a bargaining chip, not a deal breaker. Buy the cleanest, best documented example you can stretch to, rather than the cheapest one in the listings, since the cheap car almost always carries the most expensive problems. And remember that the figures here are a guide from a fast-moving market, so values vary with condition, mileage, specification, and where in the world you are shopping, and the only way to know a specific car is to have it properly inspected. Do that, move before these appreciation curves climb any further, and you will own a genuine Porsche that the rest of the market was too distracted to notice. The badge on the bonnet is the same one bolted to cars costing 10 times as much, and the driving feel that made the name is right there in every car on this list, waiting for the buyer smart enough to look past the rumor and read the price. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.